It started as a quiet afternoon at my old family home. I was sitting on the porch, enjoying a cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed. The subject line made me freeze. Urgent. HOA notice of sale. Immediate action required. I opened it. The HOA claimed they had legally sold my home, the one I had owned for over 50 years, because of unpaid dues and violation of HOA rules. The email even included a link to an auction website showing my home listed for sale. I blinked, then laughed. A dark, slow laugh. They really thought they could pull this off. Karen, of course, was front and center. She had personally signed off on the sale, grinning like a cat who'd cornered a mouse. It's done. We followed procedure. This house isn't yours anymore. I leaned back in my chair and sipped my coffee, calm as a lake in the morning. Karen, I said finally, you might want to sit down. Her smirk faltered. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and dialed the governor's office. You've reached the governor's office, a cheerful voice answered. Hello, I said. This is the governor speaking. There was a pause on the other end. Excuse me? Exactly? I said, flipping my badge out of my wallet. Not a sheriff's badge this time, but a governor's seal. Something Karen had no idea I held. You just sold my property illegally. I'm calling to rectify the situation personally. At that moment, the entire HOA board turned pale. Some of them stumbled backward, unsure if I was bluffing. Karen's face went from smug to terrified. You're the governor? She squeaked. Yep, I said calmly. And as the governor, I can assure you that not only is this sale null and void, but every single board member involved is about to face criminal charges for fraud, misrepresentation, and attempted theft. Karen's voice trembled. I didn't know. You didn't know? I echoed. Really? You think we don't have records? Emails? Witness statements? Not to mention the fact that you tried to sell property owned by the state of affairs you were messing with? That's fraud. The other board members began whispering frantically. Some tried to pull their phones to call lawyers, but I already had legal notifications queued. Every document notarized and filed was ready to hit their inboxes. By the end of the week, the HOA had dissolved. The sale of my home was officially declared null and void, and restitution orders were issued immediately. Karen and 2 other board members were personally fined, banned from holding any HOA office, and faced criminal investigation for attempted property theft. But I wasn't done with lessons. I personally went to the neighborhood and posted official notices on every mailbox. The property formerly managed under the HOA is legally recognized as private. Any future attempts to interfere will be met with criminal prosecution. And to really drive the point home, I arranged for a ceremonial deed posting. Right on Karen's own front door, I affixed a copy of my family's deed, notarized and embossed with the governor's seal. She came home to find it taped like a trophy on her door. Neighbors who had long endured Karen's petty tyranny finally got a sense of justice. They cheered, some even laughing at the sight of her cowering behind curtains as her empire crumbled. The irony? Karen had tried to sell my house for a quick profit, thinking I'd be powerless. Instead, she handed me the ultimate victory: public vindication, criminal investigations against her, and a reminder to every HOA member in the state that power has limits. Now, every time I walk past my house, the deed posted on her door is a reminder. You can't mess with someone who literally runs the state. Karen thought she was untouchable, but in the end, she learned that when you try to steal from the governor, you don't just lose your authority. You lose everything. And I poured myself another cup of coffee, sat back on the porch, and finally enjoyed some peace. Last year, I had to spend 6 months overseas for work. Before leaving, I made sure everything was secured, fences repaired, and cattle tended to. I had a ranch hand checking in weekly. Everything was in order. But when I returned, I didn't recognize my own land. Where my fields once stretched, there were rows of cookie-cutter houses, sidewalks, streetlights, driveways, and bright banners that read, "Welcome to Oak Ridge Estates, Phase 2." 138 brand new homes, built directly on my property. I nearly ran my truck off the road. I stormed straight to the HOA clubhouse, where Karen, the president, was sipping iced tea like a queen on her throne. "You've got 10 seconds to explain why there are houses on my land," I growled. Karen smiled sweetly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. The developer decided to expand, and your ranch land was perfect. Don't worry, you'll be compensated once the sales finalize." My blood boiled. "You built on MY property without consent. That's trespass, fraud, and theft." Karen laughed. "You weren't using it. Now families will enjoy it. You should be thanking us." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked out because I knew something she didn't. See, the developer who originally built their subdivision? I'd gone to school with the CEO, and while the HOA thought they were cozy with him, they forgot one important detail. Their contracts only covered the lots already sold. They had zero rights to expand without purchasing new land. And they hadn't purchased mine, which meant every one of those 138 houses was sitting illegally on my ranch. I called the CEO. "Hey, you might want to check your records," I told him, "because your company just built phase 2 on land I still own." There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by a panicked, "What?" I sent him the deed, the surveys, and the aerial photos. Within hours, his legal team descended on the HOA like a pack of wolves. Turns out, the HOA board had forged documents claiming they had development rights. The contractor never verified ownership, they just built. That single mistake triggered one of the biggest lawsuits in county history. The HOA was sued for fraud. The developer sued them for damages. Homebuyers sued them for selling illegal lots. And me? I sued for land theft. In the end, the HOA was completely bankrupted. Karen and her board were personally liable for millions. Their homes were seized, their assets drained, and their reputations destroyed. As for the 138 new houses, the county condemned them. Some were bulldozed, others sat empty, rotting shells of a failed scam. My ranch hand and I tore down the cheap sidewalks and fences, and I reclaimed my land. Today, when I drive past that part of my ranch, it's peaceful again, just wide, open fields. A few remnants of driveways poke through the grass like scars, reminders of what Karen and her HOA tried to steal. They thought they could take my land while I was away. Instead, they lost everything, while I gained one of the most ironclad property rights cases in county history. My ranch stood long before their HOA, and it'll still be here long after they're gone.